All right, we're starting on the next session. This is Christopher Jones. Let's give him a round of applause.
If it's possible to hold the mic as close to your mouth, yeah?
Morning, everyone. I've been instructed to hold the mic as close to my mouth as I can, so just bear with me here. Disclaimer, some of you are going to hate me, some of you are going to love me. I've changed my talk. Spoken to Laura about it, and I'll explain why now. So, yesterday, I had a very important conversation with two attendees from here, and I realized that there's something that I need to talk about that is a hell of a lot more valuable to any developer in Africa in particular than this. So for this, if you know how to write code, you know how to automate things, okay? Good story. So let's change the subject here, okay? Let's talk about something that's actually a lot more important. And this is, I'm not very well prepared for this. I made the slides last night after I made the decision that I was going to change exactly what I was going to present at PyCon Africa. And so just bear with me a little bit. This is something that I'm quite passionate about. So I do believe that I might have you on the edge of your seats if I'm lucky. All right. At the end of this talk, what I really want is I want to show you basically how to choose what to grow in and not just how to grow. We'll get into details. I want you to break away from job titles, degrees, job labels, anything of the sort. Like, completely forget about it. If you write code, you're an engineer. Like, don't worry about the rest of it. I want to help you understand the very basics that you need to actually build some level of a personal system for continuous growth. And intentional. Remember the word intentional. Probably going to use it far more than I'm comfortable with this talk. So just quickly, put some stuff there so you can read it if you want to. But long story short about me, I started out farming. I grew up farming. I knew when I left high school, I didn't know how to turn a computer on, to be honest. Went to university and realized that I needed to study something that was going to stay current and, I don't know, relevant in the world that we're living in. So I moved on to studying computers and realized that I quite enjoyed it. So stuck with it. Turns out I'm pretty good at it to some degree, I guess. And yeah, now we are here today. Let's get serious for a moment. Okay. Yesterday was weird. The conversation we had, it unintentionally reminded me of how privileged I am to work at the company that I currently work at. The reason I say that is because at Intellect, and this is not a sales pitch, I can promise you that, it's just reality here. At Intellect, as part of like their model to success as a business, I think the best way for me to describe it would be as part of some of the KPIs for leadership positions, they are responsible for ensuring that the people they lead actually are growing and in the direction that they intend to grow in. So if that's not happening, you as a leader are not doing your job correctly. It's one way to put it, right? Why is this so like important though? It's important because if I've got more experience than a junior member in my team, the knowledge, the hardships, the weird niche problems that you've run into, sharing that with them is way more valuable. You can't Google that shit, okay? Like, you're not going to Google it. It doesn't exist. What you can Google is how to learn to write in Python and how to do this and ask an LLM some very deep technical things. Just be careful. We'll talk about that just now. So my whole intention here with changing this talk was basically I want to share part of that with you guys at PyCon Africa. So yeah, that's why I'm here. Basically what we're going to cover very briefly, I'm going to speak mostly to the first topic here. So I like to call this the trap of random growth. It's a lovely concept I thought about last night while I was extremely tired. Then we'll talk about not really a framework for intentional growth, but more so how to think about intentional growth, how to think intentionally about your growth. And and how and what to learn in terms of I need to go from having 10 years experience, I actually don't know where to go now. Like what sort of a decision should you be making or thinking of versus someone who is in university or studying a diploma or whatever the case is, and you thinking, well, I'm struggling to get a job. What should I do? Let's answer that. So, the trap of random growth. Plan without a plan. Oh, so much more common than you'd think. Okay, do me a favor. Read the questions there on the slide. Can anybody relate? I can relate. Like I said earlier, I like to believe I'm fairly good at what I do. And a lot of the time, I think, what should I be studying next? What should I be learning next? What direction should I be taking? Am I taking the right direction with my career? What is the right direction? Does it exist? Let's talk about it. Some of you, if you know the other side of this meme, will just be in the position, which I've also been in before, which is, I don't know. So what do you want? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know where to look. Okay. I tried to make this as simple as possible, and I don't want to overcomplicate any of the concepts within this. But if you think about growth, there's three sort of main categories that I would put it into that define what you need to be careful of when it comes to random growth. So some examples of like random growth would be you're working on well-established or legacy software, and it's part of your job, or let's say the client that you're working for, to just do that. That's great. So as you're working on it, you're probably going to run into some heavy technical problems. You're going to dive deep into them and learn a lot more about that particular scenario, that particular problem, right? And that technology. That's wonderful, but have you thought about the next 5 years? Have you thought about what's next, right? It's good to learn on the job, just be careful of it. So another example is like you're a student, which is great because you need the basics, and I'm going to emphasize that heavily shortly. But keep going, and remember, it doesn't end there. What you learn in your diploma or at university is not even the start. Okay? Chasing qualifications is something that is like incredibly dangerous. I've seen this happen so much with people I've worked with people I haven't worked with that I've just watched give presentations and stuff like that. You look great on paper, but do you know what you are actually, do you know how to use it? So you go and get an AWS certification. Wonderful. If I ask you to now go and give me a full-on solution using AWS, can you do it? The paper doesn't prove that you can. It proves that you've studied this thing. What proves that you can is if you've actually done it, got the practical experience, right? Chasing the latest tech. Look, it's a tricky one. We need to stay up to date with what's changing, right? We all know how quickly things change in the tech world. It's good to stay up to date, as long as it's for the right reasons, right? If you're chasing the latest tech because you think that's going to get you the next big job, forget it. Okay, it's not how it works in reality. I'm going to now quickly just put a little spin in the works here. Let's use an example. Let's say you're learning Django, right, for the first time. You're upskilling in Django. Do you know what the whole concept of HTML templating actually is? Do you understand the underlying fundamental reason that templating exists? If not, you're in for a world of shit. Like, you're going to learn this stuff and do really good and learn it really well, but you're going to run into situations that you won't be able to figure out how to fix, right? So it's just a small example. So the only way I can really sum this up in terms of the random growth is growth is about you. It's not about the tech. It's not about your ability to produce code in a certain tech stack or using certain frameworks or languages, or whatever the case is. It's not really about that. It's about how you understand what you are doing. Okay? It has nothing to do with the tech itself. It's you. Career growth is not simply climbing the corporate ladder. Maybe once upon a time it was. In our world of work, in the tech world, it is not that. All right? It's in some companies it might be seen as that is like the goal. I want to be at the top. I want to be a solutions architect. I want to be this. I want to be that. The reality, getting the title doesn't mean you can do the work. If you can do the work, you can do the work, right? Some people would argue, but isn't random growth better than nothing? Like, you're growing, it might be random, it might not be intentional, there might not be an exact direction that you plan on taking, but you're growing. Well, yes and no, okay? So just bear with me out. Take a step back. I want you guys to just quickly think about, for yourselves, while you're sitting here, think about what do you actually want to get out of your career? If you're an employee, think about it from that perspective. If you're self-employed and you, for example, are like a contractor or you create SaaS tools or whatever, what is it that you plan to get out of your life working, okay? Are you actually heading in that direction, okay? Do you know how to head in that direction? If you answered no to any of those questions, you need to be more intentional about your growth. So, just a brief sort of a background as to why I think I actually feel quite strongly about this particular topic. I was thrown into the deep end twice. The first time, when I joined Intellect, I was thrown into a one-man team unintentionally by Intellect, and I had to swim. I decided I wasn't going to drown, and I swam, and I did all right, I guess. Still here. But I learned a lot along the way. Second time round was great. Lucky for me, I was exposed to probably the best mentor I could ever have asked for. He made me realize that I know absolutely nothing, okay? Which was quite a shock when you come out of varsity nice and fresh. You've been on your first project, you're like, success. You jump into the next one and you're like, what is going on? Okay. So yeah, I could write code really well, really fast, really clean, really neat. Best practices applied. I don't know how to deploy it. I didn't know how to consider what was the best way to deploy that specific type of code or that specific type of problem that I was solving. And that's where I want to, again, some people might hate this, but I don't really care. So your value in the real world as a software engineer is based on the value you can provide your client. Okay. Unfortunately, that is how it works. It's not about what you know. It's not about how fast you can write code. It's not about whether or not you can recite the object-oriented programming principles like the back of your hand. It's about the value you can provide. So, remember this slide about the horse needing direction? We're going to answer this quite simply, all of these questions. Small analogy. Let's say I'm a business owner. I am coming to you and I need a solution. And you say to me, I can solve it. Okay. Essentially what I'm asking you to do is provide the value that I need, right? And there's only one way you can do that. Full solutions. Okay. You need to be able to provide solutions. You need to be able to say, okay, you need X, Y, Z. I need to find out if that's all you need. Now that's something we're going to talk about, soliciting requirements, right? I can't expect a client or a business to be happy with the work I've done if it's not finished. If it's not there, sitting in production, the world can see it, they can use it. It's providing the value that it was intended to provide. If I write this wonderful, wonderful piece of code in this algorithm, it's game-changing, it's magical, but the client says, okay, well, how do I use it? You're like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to give it to you and get someone else to go and deploy it or do something with it. It's like, no, it's not how it works. It's about full solutions. Now, the reason I'm talking about full solutions here is because a lot of people will say, well, have these questions around, what do I need to do and what direction do I need to take to actually grow, to become more, let's say, valuable in the world of tech? Like, I want to get a better job. I want to get paid more. I want to learn more, whatever the case is. I want to grow, essentially, right? If you can't provide full solutions, there's a lot missing you need to account for. Let's talk about that, right? So, I feel like I'm back at varsity now. Remember the fundamentals of information systems, right? Okay. People, networks, software, hardware, data. Well, believe it or not, if you don't have this nailed down, you need to go right back and start again. Not saying that everything you've learned is worthless. What I'm saying is that you need to remind yourself of the basics. Okay. My rugby coach at school used to get under my skin. Okay. He always made us practice basics over and over and over again, and I hated it until one day I finally understood why. When you forget the basics, you make mistakes, and you ultimately lose money. And most of the time in our careers, it's not our money that we're losing. Okay? So it's a little bit worse. Now, let's just quickly breeze over this because I think I'm running out of time. What am I on now? Oh, okay, it's not too bad. Okay, quickly on the people topic. So I did want to mention this because I know this is probably highly relevant. For you introverts out there, I'm sorry. You have to learn how to speak to people, okay? Unfortunately, as a huge part of being able to provide full solutions, you need to know how to speak to a non-technical person about technical things and how to solicit technical things from a non-technical person. You need to understand how to do that. It's a huge part of our jobs. And if you want to be able to provide full solutions properly, you need to know how to do that, right? Data, yes, you need to understand databases, data structures, relational versus non-relational, and all that jazz. Hardware. Do you know what considerations to make in terms of hardware? You're writing something that's performing a specific action. You're going to deploy it somewhere. You've containerized it. Cool. Do you understand how that container has been configured on that server to ensure that it does or does not have too much access to resources so that it doesn't take away from other containers running on the server? There's so much that you need to understand, and you cannot understand these things without understanding the basics. So I'm going to emphasize this again. If you're uncertain about how any of these things work, that's where you start, okay? So cool, Chris, we know the basics of information systems. Now what? So before we move forward, I just want to make a quick note. Oh, that's very small. About the advent of AI. The reason I wanted to chuck this in here just briefly is because I can see and feel the fear creeping into the minds and hearts of developers globally. People are scared for their jobs, and honestly, I can't understand why. I don't get it, okay? Question, tech is changing fast. Shouldn't I keep up? Well, yeah, of course, you got to keep up to some degree, right? But you can't keep up if you don't know the basics. You cannot. You can't learn. You go and ask ChatGPT to tell you, okay, I need to solve this problem. Give me a solution, right? ChatGPT gives you a solution. Do you even understand that solution properly, or are you just going to put it there because when you run it, you got the right result? And then you tell ChatGPT to give you unit tests to ensure that that result is correct, okay? Assert positive or whatever that, like, no. You got to be careful with it, okay? And just so you know, it's not taking your job. So how does it actually affect the future for us? It's a tool. Makes your life easier. If you know what you're doing, you understand the basics, it's going to make your dev life a hell of a lot more smooth and easier. Once it gets better. At this point in time, it still pisses me off daily. Okay, intentional growth. I'm going to breeze over this because, like I said earlier, it's not really about me providing you with a framework. I want you to think about growth for yourself as an individual, not necessarily here's the perfect roadmap, because that doesn't exist, right? So I broke this up into, well, 4 things. Direction, depth, visibility, and practice. Direction, as you can imagine, is pretty simple. It's more about where you want to go. Do you want to go to a highly technical route? Are you planning on becoming an expert in AI and LLMs to help them fix their own unit tests? You know, things like that would be great. But the direction still doesn't really matter without the basics. If you don't understand how the system of systems work together, how all the cogs in the system turn to make things work, you're going to make mistakes. And you're not going to be as valuable as the next person who has seen it all, right? Depth. Depth is just really about how deep and how specialized you want to go, I guess. It's pretty much as simple as that. The only thing I would really say about depth is that don't specialize too early. You'll bite yourself, right? Visibility. Now, this one is mainly for the people that aren't well established, let's say early on in their careers, things like that. We often say, okay, well, some companies will only take me if I have a degree, not a diploma, and if I have 5+ years experience, how do I change that? How do I get around that? Visibility. Okay. Go on to GitHub, write some cool code, implement some full solutions, examples, and please make sure they are not Hello World applications. Goodness me, that really gets under my skin. But if you do that, when you go and apply for a job, you've got your link to your repos, the things that you've done. You can show that you've done the work. You can show that you understand it. If someone asks you in an interview to walk you through how you did that, now you have something directly to speak to, right? And it just makes a world of a difference. And practice, believe it or not, when you're learning something even in the tech world, just practice, 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 practice. Do it again, do it again, do it again. Try it differently. Try it this way, try it that way, until it's like ingrained in your head. Then you are ready to move forward, right? Now, this isn't really important. I guess it depends how you want to look at it. But when I talk about like a full cycle or full solution, a understanding everything, this is just a few of the major underlying concepts that you kind of need to be aware of, right? So when I talk about servers and deployments, I'm kind of speaking about the same thing. Do you know how to put something onto a server? Do you know how to deploy it? Do you know how to do that stuff? And the application, I mean, most of you, if not everyone, can write code, right? So you're good with that. Can you write clean code? Honestly, no one cares. Like, if it works in production, fantastic. It gets the results, it gets the value. This is coming from someone who, when I don't write clean code, I get into a lot of trouble, okay? But if it works, it's better than being clean, okay? You also need to understand the DevOps lifecycle, get used to making changes, pushing them into prod, blah, 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 okay? Now, I'm going to breeze through this because I'm already pretty much done, but there's actually only one thing I really want to get to. You know this phrase? Do you know that's wrong? That's the real phrase. Why do you think that is? More value. You add more value with the more stuff you can do. If you can master something, but you can't produce it or productionize it, you can't actually get it into where it's meant to be, it's not valuable. Someone else has to provide part of the value chain. Okay? Last thing I really actually want to mention is this roadmap.sh. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this roadmap.sh website. If you want technical direction in terms of maybe what you should be studying or learning in terms of the technical side of many different languages, take a look. It's brilliant. All right. Closing thoughts just quickly. Direction, depth, visibility, practice, and community, right? Master the basics first. Understand how everything works on a much broader scale before you try to specialize, okay? Don't chase accreditations. They look very nice on paper, but when you get caught out because you get the job and then you don't know what you're doing, that's your career done, right? Learn the tech, but when you are learning the tech, focus on the principles. So you're learning a new framework, that's great. Understand why that framework exists. What is it accomplishing and what is it built on top of? Always look down. It's never just, I built this magic code. It's I use this, this, and this to build this code, right? Yeah, just a little nice word of encouragement, I guess. Yeah, and that's it from me.
Are there any questions that we have or thoughts or whatever?
Hi, Chris. Great talk. My question is based around when you said, growing intentionally and making sure that you can provide full solutions. This isn't my personal experience, but I've heard from many other people that are a little bit earlier in their career that they struggle convincing, their leads or their seniors to do other things to what they're currently doing. So they're kind of stuck, doing the easy things, not being challenged. You as a leader, how do you try to, break down those silos for juniors to make sure that they, can grow, learn other things, and ultimately become full solution engineers?
So, I don't know if I should really say this. I drop people in the deep end all the time. In my team, you're going to learn to swim, okay? Whether you like it or not. And if you start drowning, I'm just going to just keep you up, just enough until your armbands naturally work, okay? Because you don't learn as fast as you do under pressure. And some people will say, I don't work well under pressure. I promise you, you do. You just need the right guidance. If you've got a good mentor, good leader, you'll be fine. Another part of to answer that question is basically creating opportunity for them to grow in the exact ways they want to grow. Much easier said than done because, for example, with our sort of a business model at Intellect, you know, we have clients and we kind of work and provide the solutions for what they particularly want. So a lot of the time there's not that much room for creativity or let's say random sort of ideas. Oh, let's use Django for this instead of a full-on .NET, you know, stack. Let's just change it entirely. But I've got that right, okay, many times. Why? Because I actually wanted, so another junior of ours, I actually wanted him to get the experience on Django and Python. So I convinced the client, let's do it. That's why mentorship and leadership and your community is so important, because if you have something you really want to push for and you have other people helping you do it, you're much more likely to get there, right?
Thank you very much. I've got a lot of gray in my beard, and this has clarified a lot of the thinking that I've been doing around like career progression and growth and stuff. So thanks for that. It's not just useful for the junior developers. One of the things I've been doing, well, since long before I was a professional software developer, is build tools to make my life easier. And I've been doing that at work, at home, at university, all of those things. So if you see a problem that you think you have an idea how to solve, go ahead and solve it. Don't ask permission to solve it unless it's something that you actually need permission for. You don't have to, you can solve work problems on your own time if you want. Don't make a habit of that, it's dangerous. But show that you can do these things, that you're interested in doing it. And as I'm currently on our infrastructure team, I don't want to deploy other people's code, so I built tools to help people deploy their own code. Building tools to make it easier for people to do the things that they want to do but can't is also a great way to help sort of build that culture of full ownership of the whole cycle.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, I agree. I actually did the same thing. Built a pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, so that my team wouldn't have to worry about it. Makes things easier, right? But 100% spot on. I think that's something that I really should have actually raised in the presentation. One of the fastest ways to grow, find something that irritates you, fix it, automate it, make it better.
One last question from myself. A lot of really good senior plus engineers tend to be more personal. They're not, you might not find them at conferences because they're just at home doing their thing. How then do you leverage them and that experience to grow? Especially maybe, you know, some of them also have like ADHD, so they don't want to be in public, get too triggered and things like that.
Close to home question. Firstly, I have ADHD, like full on. Don't know how I controlled myself today, but anyway. Secondly, it's a very good question. It almost speaks to the concept of a lot, if not the majority, of the wealth of knowledge is sitting at home, and it's not being shared. There's a couple ways to actually tackle this. So from a business perspective, like a company perspective, there's one thing the Intellect does really well is there's incentives for sharing your knowledge, for having internal training sessions, creating them, that kind of stuff, which is great because that's one way of kind of incentivizing it. On a more public spectrum, I actually have no idea how you would get them out of their house. Make sure that's the exact coffee they like, give them a dark corner over there they can go sit in with to feel comfortable. If they want to present and they want to be here, just, you know, put a little thing up here that they can sit. You can't see them, you know, I don't know, depends.
Oh yeah?
Some subset of those people are maintaining open source projects. So find something you find interesting, submit pull requests. Not just issues, pull requests. doesn't have to be good pull requests. You'll get a code review, you'll get to know the people, and you'll become part of that community, and you'll learn a lot.
Okay, someone has begged for one last question. This is it. This is literally it.
Chris, thanks very much. I agree with a lot of what you were saying, particularly for the career path going forward. But I wanted to ask, if you were to advise a startup on picking a technology stack, do you think the approach of jack of all trades, master of one or none, would also apply? The reason I ask is that we're in a position where we've decided not to use best-in-class software. So we haven't said Salesforce for a CRM and SAP for an ERP and so forth. We've decided to try and go a far more generalist approach. Do you think the same applies to the technology stack or more just to the person?
It's a tricky one, but to make my answer as short as possible, it applies to everything. Okay, you can take a product that, if you want buy-in, okay, you want to buy into a particular type of technology product, whatever the case is, go and get yourself a Mac, get yourself an iPhone, get the Apple, whatever that thing's called. Like, just as a weird example, you'll get your buy-in, right? Now everything talks nicely together and all that. Can you customize it? You're talking about a startup, right? You've got specific features you're going to end up wanting to create. You've got a specific spin on some niche or whatever the case is. How are you going to customize it if you're using stuff that doesn't allow you to? So that's why I generally go with the whole concept of the more you know, the better. And the more well-rounded you are, the more likely you are to move forward further as a business and as a person. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was it for the session.